they say like Rome wasn't built in a day. It also didn't fall in a day. This is like the slow falling of Omega. We can watch it as it's happening and give it academic scrutiny. Just one ridiculous decision after another, because it's not going to be one failure. It's just a series of what were they thinking before it's unrecognizable.
What were they thinking? Greetings and welcome to this week's aBlogtoWatch Weekly, where we have already found out in our preamble on aBlogtoWatch Weekly Live on YouTube, which we recorded Tuesday about 7:30 a.m. UK time, that the best cheater wins. And that is why I, as a podcast host, am now Deputy Director of the FBI, because it appears to be a time of life whereby podcasters can be appointed to high pillars of office. So I'm looking forward to my invite.
Is that who that guy was?
Yeah, he's a podcaster. I mean, he used to be a police officer as well, but he's fundamentally a podcaster who's now basically running the FBI.
Yeah,
so good
Rick,
luck.
you like conspiracy theories? You're more than qualified.
That's right, yeah. Good conspiracy theory gets you qualified. Well, we're going to be dealing with a conspiracy theory, and if you haven't listened to the live show, we're going to have a bit of an F1 special this morning, while we kind of co-rate the team's chances with the watch brands that they've been stuck with to try and achieve the best overall score. So you might be a good team, but with a terrible watch brand. Or you might be a team with no watch brand at all, in which case, which watch brand should you have? And that will hopefully lead us down some other avenues of news this week. But so far, we've discovered that Ariel's understanding of F1 is rudimentary. Should we say that? Is that an appropriate word? Rudimentary.
Jeez, I know how a car works. Come on,
you know how a car works. But we've established it as basically best cheater, best loophole finder is the winner. So yes. let's quickly go around the room and we'll ask David. So, David, favorite F1 team?
Yeah, probably McLaren. Long-term Ferrari for whatever self-destructive reason. Yeah.
Self-destructive reason that Lewis Hamilton, I suspect, is about to find out all about. It's nice and shiny and red. Might not go very fast. Ripley, favourite F1 team?
Well, everyone likes to see Ferrari win because when a child draws a race car, he draws it in red. But I'm not masochistic enough to root for Ferrari. I am even more masochistic, I guess, and I like what was formerly AlphaTauri and Toro Rosso. Now it's, I guess, Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, although I think they're set to have a name change. They've had a ton of drivers in the last few years, and they've had more names. I think Christopher Ward would be a great brand for them, given how.
Oh, don't start!
I like Red Bull's B team. I like Red Bull's B team because in no circumstances are they going to win. If they ever get a good enough car or a good enough driver to the point where they could be in contention, Red Bull would just poach that. So it's systematically an underdog, but it's like a little bit of a reality show over there. It's fun to watch.
Yeah. Ariel, favourite colour of car? Look, all these colours you've got to choose from.
Oh, the Mercedes one with the black and aquamarine. That was always very cool and hip. I always thought that was nice.
And yet they are called the Silver Arrows, but let's not unpack that too much, I guess.
Look at that smiley face.
Yeah, look at these children millionaires. None of these guys can buy me a beer, and they're all just making 8 figures racing cars.
They can't even rent a car in certain countries. It happens. They're not eligible to rent a freaking airport rental, and they're Formula 1 drivers. I think that's hilarious.
I would card this man for everything.
How did they get to Formula 1 so fast? Isn't there rankings of slower races, and then they move their way up?
Well, all these guys are really good, but I guess you need a child behind the wheel of a car. They've got the fast synapses and the short attention spans and all of that good stuff. By the time you get to the age where you'd normally be a mature athlete in any other sport, you are old and washed up, or you're Fernando Alonso 10 years away from hitting his prime.
So you're saying they graduate into competitive video games from Formula 1 racing?
Sometimes, or vice versa, has also happened.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Okay. Well, let's start. So let's see what's what we have. Where should we start? Well, seeing as we've got Mercedes up, let's start with Mercedes. So Mercedes, we have as drivers George Russell and Andre Kimi Antonelli.
Woody from Toy Story and that young boy who bags your groceries down.
I was going to say, too young to win, too tall to win.
Wasn't that famous guy Lewis Hamilton? He was part of this team or something?
Yes, and he's now off to Ferrari.
Yes,
Oh,
because
did they poach him? Is that how it is?
Everybody loves a story.
Was he really good? His name was brought up a lot. I don't know.
He's won as much as anyone in the sport. He is, I would say, entering the twilight years of his career, but he is very good. But he wanted an ambassadorship and a multi-year deal with Mercedes. They basically said no and wanted to just extend the contract for a year. He looked elsewhere, went to Ferrari, found a lovely, glorious home there, and it's a great partnership. He loves the style. The Italians love the style. It all works over there. And he went from an IWC to a Richard Mille. That is also important for the watch.
Well, I think this is the key. This is the key conversation. So, how good grid position for Mercedes this year? What position are they going to finish, and what position would they finish in the watch stats? So, what do you reckon?
What?
Okay,
so
they're what?
Brand sponsors IWC.
They're probably going to be fourth. Let's be real. I don't, in the standings for drivers. And now, where would we rank IWC against like Richard Mille, Moser? Who else is Tag? Tudor. Who am I missing?
Girard Perregaux.
Oh yes, Gerard Perregaux for Aston Martin.
Aston Martin, yeah. Richard Mille for both McLaren and Ferrari. Moser, Tudor for
briefly
Visa.
talk about Gabriel Bortoleto, who will be making his F1 debut in McLaren. He previously raced for Team Invicta. Invicta, Rick.
Team Invicta. So that's definitely a promotion. Then
Invicta to Richard Mille. He went from like the fake version of the watch to now having the real version of the watch. I can't think of a bigger come up for the watches than Gabriel Bortoleto.
Okay, so he wins. So let's place from second to 11th or 12th or whatever. So Mercedes going to finish fourth. What do you think of their watch sponsor, IWC? Is that a fourth place finish for IWC? And amongst them all?
I think they're a little higher.
Yeah, definitely. I think we should rank watch brands based on how they utilize these partnerships. I think IWC has done a fair bit. They did watches with Hamilton, with Wolf. They created watches for the team to wear, while they're, changing the tires. They've utilized the stupid Petra screen color. I think they've done at least a little bit, and not like others who are like, well, I guess we're a sponsor now. Here's a green dial,
Well, I
think podium finish.
I would like to take a little left turn. So this is the IWC Pilots Watch Shock Absorber XPL Total Wolf. Okay, so as a wee aside to try and incorporate all our other games into this game, let's do our brand judging in terms of our collab. From -5 to 5, how good a collab is this? So is the sum of the parts of this watch... Is the whole greater than the sum of the parts? A Total Wolf IWC Big Pilots for 100.
Ariel, what you need to know about this is that Total Wolf is known to be banging viciously on like a tech desk or something like that with a stupid headset on whenever something bad happens. And he's like banging like this. And so they created the shock absorber watch so that it can take that abuse whenever Total Wolf loses his freaking mind.
He's also married to a Scottish woman, and there's someone else who's also married to a Scottish woman. These, shock absorbing is a necessary part of streetwear for Panerai, etc.
Is so also having way too much disposable income.
Yes, he owns most of the Mercedes F1 team, so he is like a billionaire.
Which is weird.
That's definitely part of it as well.
Who never wants to reset the time of his watch, but wants to spend $95,000 to do it a little bit less.
It would not surprise me if at some stage he buys IWC. Let's face it, that's probably his angle.
Well, they've made him some pretty unique piece uniques.
The other watch is part of this relationship. Like, I would have one of these black and aquamarine watches gladly. This, I don't know why, but this is one of those watches that just doesn't look like it should have been sold. Like, if someone was like, hey, we made this proof of concept and it's, it's not something to sell. It's just to show that it works. Like, okay. But like, I felt like they just forgot to design it. That just sort of stayed a prototype. And no one's like, oh, we have to make a commercially viable one. Like, oh no, we don't need to do that. Like, it's just hideous looking.
Okay, so on a scale of -5 to +5, what are you giving it, Ariel?
Oh,
for the whole is greater than the sum of the parts?
It's like a -3. It's just nobody seems to want this. I'm not even sure if the guy wants it.
Okay, we'll just do Ariel on this because this is funner, shall we say? So Ariel, on the -5 to 5 on the have you heard of the collaborator?
Well, I do like Japanese toilets an awful lot.
Yeah, I know you mention it. So what? Another -3?
I'm not familiar with the wolf model though.
Do you say wolf different with an extra F? Is it a longer F? Is it not like
wolf.
The wolf watch cases?
No,
but
it's because it's F1, so it's wolf.
Kind of sounds like what happens when you flush a Toto,
Flush a Toto down a wolf. Right, okay, we're giving it a -3. And then, is it a cool watch, gentlemen, in general? Is this a cool watch?
No.
Okay.
I mean, if you want an expensive mechanical shock absorbing watch, we got a Norcane for you.
Yeah, true. Also expensive, but yes.
Yeah, but like $6,000. Like, save yourself, a really nice Mercedes.
You can also just get a quartz watch, just get a moon watch. Be fine. It just shatters into a gazillion pieces.
This is better than the previous Toto Wolf exclusive, which was not sold to the public, but it was like full teal, this Patronus green color. But it was a Perpetual calendar IWC full ceramic on a ceramic bracelet. And you can just imagine as this man is hitting things in his sports-induced rage, that probably wasn't it. So they're like, well, we have this super shock absorbing thing anyway. Let's just make one for Toto Wolf. And it'll be twice the wolf is half wolf.
Okay, so we're giving him a big minus score for the actual collaboration that's mentioned. Mercedes are getting a 4th place finish this year. Where are they finishing in the watch game?
Third
sounds good. Right, let's find another team. Who's next in order on the list? Is actually this team is Alpine.
Great watch. Great watch. Terrible pit stops. Worse engines.
Okay. Here's the deal. For this season, what has to happen is that the car comes out for new tires, and they also have to service the watch. The driver would just hand out the watch, and they have to change the lubricants or just take off or change the straps. That would actually be funny. Change the straps on every pit stop and see who has the better quick release system. We're getting somewhere.
Yeah, how you used to have those, what do they call them? Was it Monaco starts? Is that what they call them? Where all the drivers would start in a line and have to run to their cars?
Le Mans.
A Le Mans start. Is that a Le Mans start? Maybe that should be a Le Mans start via
they all have to wind and set their watches before they can drive. So, you want the Perpetual calendar? Go for it, my friend.
Exactly. If you've chosen to give them the Perpetual calendar, then it's your own fault. So what is the watch brand for Alpine then?
Well,
it's Moser.
And they just have a new logo actually for the cars because the regular H. Moser and C logo looks just like a splatter when you're driving by, and no one knows what that means. So they've just switched it to moserwatch.com for the purposes of the car. I don't think we'll be seeing it on the dial of a watch. But
so
it's Moser, so who knows?
We now have Moser.watch.
No way.
As the logo.
Yeah, should have been underscore watch.
David.
Yes.
Finally been rejected. It should have been an underscore.
Have you not heard of the underscore?
God damn it. It should have been me. It
was right in front of you.
Look at this amazing list of sponsors that we've never heard of, other than Qatar Airways and Pirelli and Roland. I couldn't tell you what any of these are.
What are Roland just supplying the headphones for the pit crew? Is that what they're doing?
Probably, honestly. I would not.
They use a lot of headphones.
I mean, would you want Boeing right now as your engineering partner, a Formula One team?
I mean, it sounds about right given how the car's doing last season.
And of course, you've got your. I think we should really be rating these teams about how many cryptocurrency coin/dealers have they each got sponsoring them.
The world of F1 sponsorship is so shady.
Don't pull that back. They have enough trouble with the budget cap as it is. Don't start peeling back that onion.
I feel bad for Microsoft in that, the big partner up there. I mean, Xbox is one of their brands, so it's part of that. They're the only company there that's well regarded right now. Maybe Delphi a little bit, but like Binance, like wasn't their founder sent to jail, and that's like 2 things over from Microsoft?
I mean, yeah, Pierre Gasly. I mean, this guy Jack too. He looks like he's there for a good time this season. This boy's having fun. He doesn't care if he finishes last. He's there for a good. He's gonna.
The colors of their logo,
traveling.
they look like they're bad for my teeth.
What?
Like I'm getting tooth decay just looking at this like candy color logo they have.
Yes, it does. It does look a bit peculiar. So, where are they finishing in the world of Formula One and the watches? So, ranking of Formula One, where are they finishing, Ripley?
7th.
A seventh for Alpine. Where did they finish last season? I've actually no idea.
God, like maybe
7th.
8th? I don't.
No.
Yeah.
They had this double podium stuff.
Oh, yes, you're right.
That really pushed them high. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
okay.
maybe 6th or
Anyway.
something then.
In watch game, where are they
4.
finishing? 4th in the watch game for Moser.
I would have pushed
stuff.
IWC to 2, and then this could be 3, but that's gone.
Yeah, that's gone.
That ship is
That's
stale.
gone.
No,
The
yeah.
ship has sailed
What
the
David's
game.
saying makes a lot of sense, but
Okay. Well, there we go. We're
4,
going,
yeah.
going for 7th and 4th. Right.
Well, I like their
next-
watch a lot in a vacuum. The watch they've made for the Alpine team, it's a cool thing. Has like a transparent spindle, whatever that stone is, dial. But it just makes no sense within the context of Formula One in the same way some of the other collaborators' watches are.
Right. Next up, Aston Martin. And if 2 drivers could look more like they'd slept in a hedge the night before, it would be this pair. Lance Stroll looks like he's wearing somebody else's racing gear. Like, it's too big for
He
him.
looks like he's wearing someone else's face. Look how uncomfortable that guy looks.
He's not, despite the fact his dad owns the team, doesn't he?
There's no reason this man would be in Formula One if his dad didn't own the team.
I have no problem with Nepo babies. I am one, so that's absolutely fine. But, there's Nepo babies, and then there's giving Nepo babies something that could kill themselves at 200 miles an hour. So maybe
What
not the
all
best
you guys
choice.
need to see is the video of rocket-powered Mohawk on This Is Why People Hate You, and it's a hilarious take on Lance Stroll. You just look it up. It's hysterical.
Right, okay. What I'm looking for, is it suitable for broadcast? Rocket-powered...
Well, a little bit.
Sorry, what? Rocket-powered Mohawk?
Yes.
Rocket-powered Mohawk.
This Is Why People Hate You. That's the name of the video.
I am trying to... Okay, I'm at a paywall, but yeah, I get the gist of what I'm looking at here.
What paywall? It's on YouTube.
Oh, right, okay, no, I've gone straight to his website. Right, I'll Google that as we go along. So Girard Perregaux is your watch brand. Aston Martin is your car brand. Like, in theory, it sounds like quite a good combo. Aston Martin and Girard Perregaux, but is it? I mean, this is the Girard Perregaux, just really the Girard Perregaux Laureato Chronograph Aston Martin condition, which looks, a few people have commented, slightly pukey. I think.
Ariel, isn't that just probably the worst official picture of a watch we've seen in quite a long time?
I mean, the word sickly
horrific.
is what I said to the team. It's
Yes.
It does
is
not look
weird.
like you should touch it with your bare hands.
That's true.
So if this is the collaboration this year, then what are we looking at? Give us a ranking for Aston Martin's finishing position in Formula One. David, 8th, and their watch game was Girard Perregaux, Ripley, Ariel.
I mean, I don't want this one. Here's the thing. It used to be that when they made watches for the car relationships, they'd make a different watch. But Girard Perregaux can't seem to do anything other than do new colors, and not even good new colors. So I don't think that they're taking this relationship seriously. Nobody here, including Saudi Aramco, I think, is making money in this deal. I don't understand
Colors
this
are
entire
hard.
team.
Is Fernando
Colors are hard.
Is Fernando Alonso still sponsored by Richard Mille individually? Because if so, that might make a lot of sense why GP just does not care about this partnership. We get to have our watch on one of the 2 drivers, and it's the one who doesn't score a point all season. Great, like that's That's a win for us.
I feel like part of the deal was they had to give a bunch of free watches, so now they're just like trolling them. They're like, okay, you wanted free watches, now this is what you get.
This is what you're getting. Yeah. I think they should be doing a watch that kind of celebrates Lance Stroll's eyebrows. I think that would be fun. Like,
just eyebrows.
Eyebrows of both of them. This is a team with good eyebrows. There's some good eyebrow game here in this team.
And Fernando Alonso is old enough to be Lance Stroll's dad. Like, Fernando Alonso is almost old enough to remember a pre-Quartz era. He is the oldest man in Formula One.
Was he 39?
I know, he's in his 40s.
Is he? Right,
yeah.
Okay. I mean, bear in mind the Aston Martin logo of the wings and the eyebrow game that's going on here. I'm just saying that Second has an in here for producing, or the guy,
the chronograph with the little eyebrows as the two side hands. Yeah,
little eyebrows, or the guy who's the guy that produces the funny watches down in London.
Bamford.
Oh,
Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones could do a watch based on the Aston Martin logo and that eyebrow game from Lance and
Are we still talking about eyebrows?
We're still talking about eyebrows. So give us a ranking for their watch game. We've got rid of third and fourth. I want to say they're going to be. It's a fifth. It's a good brand. It's not a 2 or a 1, but it's a good
eighth.
brand. Eighth. Okay, so
eighth, for sure.
Eighth equal as David pops in from his packing game. Okay, right. Who else have we got? Right. Next up, let's deal with the biggie. Let's deal with Ferrari, who are next on this. So there we go. Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. What could possibly go wrong with that relationship where both drivers think that they're number one driver, because that's not had its problem in the past. Ferrari, is Richard Mille officially a sponsor of Ferrari? Yes, it is. Because I always get confused because they appear to be sponsoring two teams. I don't quite understand why. Like, why would you sponsor two teams?
Well, because you want to sponsor Ferrari because Ferrari is like the quintessential Formula One team, but they will shoot themselves in the foot every other Sunday during a pit stop. And so McLaren is you hedging your bet that you'll at least get one watch on the podium. Yeah.
I mean, maybe it is just the kind of in the world of Bitcoin and, it's all about hedging.
Well, and if the only time you see the watch is when Charles Leclerc is like holding his head in dismay, like that's a really bad look for the brand. So it makes sense to have two teams. Usually when one has a good weekend, the other won't. So, they're kind of playing both sides of the field. Which
you suppose is the easiest of all the watch brands to put on when your person hands you the tray of all the gear you've got to put on as soon as you get out the car, the cap. Is Richard Mille an easy watch to put on?
Probably. They kind of wrap around the wrist. They're sort of a cuff-like thing anyway, right?
Yeah, I suppose. So they'll get linked in easy enough. So the question is Ferrari going to finish either 1, 2, or 3? That's a choice you've got. It's either a first, second, third, or a fifth place finish. What do you think? Is it going to come together?
I think third.
We still think third place.
But I think they get number one for the watch.
Do you, Richard Mille, really?
I mean,
do they get first equal, though? Is a Richard Mille on a Ferrari different from a Richard Mille on a McLaren?
Yeah, the Ferrari's way sexier. Like, that's like what you want for F1. Look at these two guys. Look at these handsome dudes wearing Richard Milles and driving Ferraris. Like, that's glamorous. You look at McLaren, way less glamorous. You got like two guys who look like they might be old enough to drink, driving orange cars. And Zach Brown's the team principal, who's just kind of like your friend's dad in high school. Like, they're not nearly as sexy as Ferrari.
So Lando just started mutating very, very recently. His voice was like pitch high, like, oh my God, someone just crashed into it. So yeah, Ferrari is much more glamorous than McLaren used to be, but they're getting there. And I like orange more than red on a watch, but yeah.
Whatever. Orange. Okay. So if Ferrari are finishing third, what position are McLaren finishing?
First.
You've got first. You think McLaren are in for a big first place? So is their watch game then right at the bottom? Even though it's the same watch as Ferrari.
They're second. I think Richard Mille's a fantastic watch sponsor to have, because if you're a Formula One driver, obviously money means nothing to you. But if you're going to be handed this trinket that you obligatorily have to wear, why not have it be this $100,000, $200,000 one. It's Richard Mille, so they make custom ones. Charles Leclerc has one in the colors of the Monaco flag because he's a Monegasque guy, and that's something that you don't necessarily get with Moser. There's no Pierre Gasly version, which is just done in the colors of France or something.
Okay, so if you're giving McLaren a first and a second, then that's a combined total smaller, so better than Ferrari, who are only a third and a first. Are you happy with that?
This is super confusing. I hope you're keeping score, Rick.
I am. Of course, I'm keeping score. That doesn't actually matter because I'm just going to make it up at the end anyway. So there we go. I
have to bail because I'm at this preview event for Watches and Wonders. I will leave you guys with a prophecy. Ferrari will be world freaking champions with Lewis Hamilton this year, and if not, I'm not watching Formula One for like 2 weeks.
For the 2 weeks during the closed season, as opposed to for all of 2026, I will burn. I tell you what. If they don't win, what's your least favorite team?
Whatever, probably Alpine.
Haas
is failing, but Alpine was like mean to its drivers.
Alpine, you have to wear on this show for 2 weeks in a row an Alpine hat. You have to go out and spend your own money on an Alpine hat if Ferrari don't win. Okay,
that's fine.
So
I take
Alpine
that.
It is, and no Moser Watch or Girard Perregaux for you, for anyone. Right, David, thanks for joining us. We shall see you soon.
Cheers, guys.
You leave us to the ignorance of Ariel and Formula One when I just make stuff up. So that's good. Right, so that is Ferrari and McLaren. We'll give them a quick wee look just so as we can display their beautiful, beautiful people on our beautiful screen. McLaren, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Who is it that's making up all these people?
What do you mean? Their parents? What do you mean making them up?
As in, look at the state
They're
of Oscar
specially bred
Piastri.
for this,
Look at the haircut. It looks like something. Listen, there's a film that springs to mind, which I'm not going to mention, but I'm just saying Oscar Piastri and Cameron Diaz, have we seen them in the same place? That's all I'm saying. Right, so McLaren are also on a Richard Mille sponsorship. Do you think they get the worser Richard Milles than Ferrari?
Yes.
Who gets...
They definitely do. Yeah. I mean, let's be real. Lewis Hamilton's probably the most famous name in the sport. He's going to get whatever he wants. He's going to get some signature models. He's going to get some cool stuff. They love sexy man Charles Leclerc, so they're going to give him one in the colors of his home flag. He's always wearing some other one. I think he had his stolen or something. All the Richard Mille drivers have their watches stolen. It's a thing. That's Lando got his stolen off his wrist in London, I think, or something like that. But, the Ferrari guys, you see them with plenty more options and some of the more higher end unique ones. The McLaren guys, they have them, but they're not, they're kind of more like a core collection chronograph. And if it makes sense, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, both very good drivers, but they just look like the guys who'd be grabbing the car at the valet for Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. They can beat them on any given Sunday, but... Lando
Norris does have that look of, where would you like to park your car, sir? that moustache is not doing him any favors.
Oh, it's the saddest mustache. It's like when I try to grow one, you somehow look younger with it. It's somehow more emasculating to have it.
I mean, I'm looking at the two of you here on video. I'm thinking, a wee moustache from you, Ripley, you could pass off as Lando Norris.
My neck is way too long and skinny to be an F1 driver.
Fair enough. So we've given McLaren a first and a second. Ariel, any interest in the Richard Milles that are used in the Formula One world? Why do Richard Mille need to sponsor Formula One? Or is that the reality of all of these watch brands? It's all just a way of the chief executives getting along to the pit lane. They're not actually worried about what it does for the brand. They're just good time party boys, and they want to be in with the big cheesies of the F1 world.
Well, the Richard Mille brand sort of evolved from the Formula One world. There's a lot of it that Richard Mille himself was inspired by. He's a car collector. So he can't separate from that brand because it's too integral to his inspiration and why he's doing what he's doing in the first place. I couldn't explain everything why. That would be for him to do, but that's not like a marketing decision so much as being true to what he believes the brand is. I think that some of the watches that they've done together are really interesting. I still, as a super top end brand, find enough Richard Milles that I like and I think are cool. There's definitely plenty they do to make fun of. You know, I mean, the watches they've done as part of this, you know, there's some of the cooler stuff. Yes, they got really lazy with the thin Ferrari one. Okay. But, you know, they'll bounce back. They never let more than a few years go by, and we look to them for cool stuff. So if the whole point is there's some super flashy brand, what are they going to be wearing? Blanc Pons? Like, that doesn't fit right now anything. So Richard Milles the one.
I mean, there are a couple of brands out there that we'll come on to in a minute that don't have watch brands. Maybe Blancpain is a way to be going, but this is possibly my favorite team just because it makes no sense whatsoever. And when you see the big man, this is the official Formula One website we're using. And when you see what they've not yet done for this team, it will shock you. That will be our title. It will shock you. F1. Here we have...
It's a Tag Heuer thing?
Here we have the official page for the Visa. Is it Red Bull Cash App for... I don't know. It's just a stupid name.
I like the Tudor watch that they did
the
together.
Tudor, yeah, but where do you see this, though? So they've yet to give whoever Isaac Hajar is, presumably, they've not actually photoshopped. They've not actually photoshopped his uniform onto him yet. So I was feeling sorry for Lance Stroll, but this guy, they've made him look like a fat Formula One driver by not having. It's a bit weird. You need to go and have a look at the video.
Oh, that's actually the Tudor logo. I haven't seen that in any of the other outfits. Is the watch brand?
Well, you're not seeing it in Isaac's outfit because I've yet to Photoshop it into him. He's just a disembodied head on the F1. Ripley, tell us about this team.
Well, it's the B team, my favorite team. It was Toro Rosso, then it was AlphaTauri, then it was the Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. And now it appears to still be the Visa Cash App Racing Bulls.
It does sound like a circus act. It sounds like a Spanish circus act. We're going along to the Racing Bulls or something.
The Dancing Bulls are next week. It's
exactly.
I mean, it's a terrible name. They're systematically destined to be a B team. They are the B team for Red Bull. Yuki Tsunoda, Japanese driver, Isaac Hajar. This will be his first year in Formula One. He got promoted up from Formula 2. This will be an interesting one. Red Bull's really cutthroat as an organization, so they kind of shuffle their drivers around between the two teams. So those who don't perform get dropped. They always seem to have a competent driver waiting in the wings to take the spot. So, we've got one guy who's known for being a bit volatile, that'd be Yuki on the track, and another guy who's never raced in Formula One before. So this should be very interesting to watch. And they're wearing Tudors.
They've yet to give him his fireproof suit, so he might not last very long.
It's just a disembodied head. It's ultra lightweight. This is part of the secret to get around the weight reduction thing.
Just drive naked. So, bearing in mind that he's yet to be dressed, and Tudor's current love for random colours called Random Things, there is on the website an article hands-on, because you guys were at Tudor recently. Let me just get this on the screen. The hands-on Tudor Blue Flamingo, because we're very familiar with Blue Flamingos. What did we think of this? The website's just a bit slow to load this morning for some reason. Ariel, what was your hands-on impression?
So I think one of the things that was cool was that Tudor explained to us this isn't sort of like an ongoing color theme. They sort of did this as like a little package deal. They've even created like a little micro area on their website where it blends the kind of pink and blue colors together. Other than they just wanting to sort of have fun with it, I don't think there's a deeper reason behind it. They're a company that's known for very conservative stuff, at least historically. And they're, part of the sort of Rolex family, which is quite conservative even compared to the two. So this is them showing like, hey, we don't have to do what the super conservative not parent company, but, bigger sister company does. I don't think that the Black Bay Chrono is the strongest watch in the catalog. There are some very cool versions of it. I keep saying how much I like the one on the Boone strap. I really like that, the two-tone and the gold. I think that's awesome. So this is like not the world's, I think, strongest chronograph, but I will say it's a very strong price. It's got that Breitling movement in it. It costs a lot less than a Breitling with that movement. It's really well made. I guess it's just it's thick, and it has that aluminum bezel that I don't know. I guess it's just the competition of it. But again, I'm wearing a Tudor watch right now with aluminum bezel. It's not that big of a deal. It's a nice finish to it. So maybe I'm a bit harsh on that watch, but I think the colors make it much more exciting than it would be normally, right? Like just the standard version of it, I don't think is exciting enough. But to take the colors, it's big enough. I think it's more of a non-watch guy watch. Like Tudor has watch guy watches. This is more of a mainstream thing in the way that a lot of the big Breitlings are nice, but not watch guy watches. So I think that it does well outside that sphere. The colors are nice. Again, it's not a big production thing. I think they're going to take a pause on that for a while. But if you are out there and you like that aquamarine color, turquoise, as I think Tudor calls it specifically, it's not a bad option in an otherwise, manly conservative package.
So what colour do we think they're going to dress Mr. Hajar, is that his name? In from Tudor. They've got a choice. He's currently left him as completely blank. What colour are they going to invent to put him in? I think they'll put him in a nice pink racing suit.
Well, they've already got the watches for the team. They have the Black Bay ceramic with the blue for Visa Cash App logo dial. So they have those watches.
Yeah, it's the Visa Pantone of blue.
Yeah, that's basically my favorite Tudor right now.
Cool. Right. Well, let's see who's next on the.
So, is it your favorite
F1
Formula
list?
One watch, though, Ariel? Is that Tudor? Does that get the nod for the best F1 watch, in your opinion?
No.
Okay. Oh, soon to be revealed. So, RB, where are they finishing? Ripley in the grand scheme of things?
What have we not said yet? Like sixth or something?
We've not said sixth. We've done seventh, eighth. We've not done fifth.
Sixth.
And in the watch game with Tudor, we've done first, second, third, fourth. So we've got a fifth place there is the highest you can place them.
Fifth,
so a sixth and a fifth place finish.
I really like the
RB.
Tudors. I guess that's appropriate on the one metric of like Formula One is all about like cutting edge, the pinnacle of motorsport, super high tech. This is the future tech that's being developed, may eventually one day work its way into the road cars. And the model they chose for it is a vintage inspired dive watch. Worlds apart as far as the thematic concept. Oh, look, another F1 driver without a body.
So we're on to Red Bull. I can kind of understand the main F1 site maybe not being that bothered about the Red Bull junior team, but you'd think they'd go to the effort to update their website for dear Liam Lawson, who if there was a name that was not Formula One sounding, it was Liam Lawson. Sounds like, I don't know, your village accountant or something. Looks like your village accountant, to be fair. So yeah, Red Bull, Max Verstappen, love him or hate him. Yeah, not sure. Not quite decided this year. We'll see. Number one man in the current number one team. Is it going to stay that way, Ripley, or are we seeing the decline of Red Bull this year?
I think they're going to do very well. I don't think they'll win again. I think the end of last season was sort of telling. A lot of the other teams started to catch them. And with all the other teams kind of having their sights set on not this coming season, but the following one and the big regulation change, I think some of them are kind of looking at this one's a wash. We're going to do as well as we can. But, we're really going to kind of keep our eyes set on, the future and the next generation of cars. But yeah, I still think they're going to do well. They've got a very good driver, an existing good car. They may not have Adrian Newey anymore to develop the vehicle, but I don't think they're just going to plummet in the standings. So I say number two for how they're going to finish.
Finish second now. Obviously, their watch brand is Tag Heuer, and indeed they are now sponsored by the overall brand that sponsors Formula One via LVMH Group, who I notice have their own listing on the Formula One website as LVMH as well as Tag Heuer. So clearly, LVMH is going to be getting a push as its own brand as well as Tag. What do we think in the watch stakes? Tag Heuer versus the rest. Where's it finished? We've done first, we've done second, we've done third, we've done fourth, we've done fifth. The highest you can place Tag Heuer is sixth in the watch brands. Does that sound a reasonable placing?
No, absolutely not.
Higher or lower?
Well, I don't know why we have Richard Mille in 1 and 2. I think Tag should be right up there with them. We've given Richard Mille two spots just because they sponsor two teams.
See, I would have put Richard Mille right down on McLaren. So as soon as he's not here, let's change McLaren's rating from second. Let's give them 6th place finish in the watch, which means that 2nd or 7th is open for Tag Heuer in the watch brand
They
stakes.
certainly spent enough to get that.
They're second. I can't think of a watch brand that has more of like a pedigree that's aligned with motorsports. I almost feel like they should be the first from brand heritage side alone. I just don't think that the watches they've put forward have really moved the needle as far as leaning into that. They're doing a lot of historical stuff, like just iterations of the Monaco, bringing back the Formula One. These are kind of obvious plays, but do something a little bit different. Do something a little bit more IWC Toto Wolff shock resistant tantrum watch thing, do something a little interesting like that.
Okay, so that gets them a second and a second. Okay, we now have 2 teams, our final 2 teams. We have Haas and we have Williams, both of whom have no watch sponsor. So Haas, talk to me about Haas and talk to me about what brand would be the most appropriate sponsor of Haas. I'm thinking JLC.
What about Hanhart? Hanhart
Hanhart for Haas. How it sounds Haasy. Well, see, I was thinking JLC because Haas has kind of got this. All the money comes from being that they're a manufacturer, in that they do all the tooling. The guy that owns like the Haas brand, they do a lot of the tooling for a lot of the stuff that makes the parts for Formula One. So I'm thinking watchmaker. So JLC. Also, it would take them away from the stupid story of polo and watches. Give them something else to talk about. Save me banging on about that being a complete made up origin story. So JLC for Haas is my vote. Ripley.
Yeah, I'd like to see JLC get into it. Haas, JLC's like they do so well at what they do, and Haas does so poorly at what they do. It just doesn't seem to be aligned from that thematic perspective. Like what's durable? Haas crashes a lot of cars and has lackluster performance. Like what fits that from a brief? Like
Bremen. Which brand's origin story is basically they crash a lot? Is that Haas?
Well, to be fair, they were perfect with Williams, who they used to sponsor.
Yes, they did for a year. That's because the English brothers wanted to tour the world and get invites to the pit lane. Any other brands, Ariel, other than Hanhart for sponsoring Haas?
I literally just based that on the name. I knew nothing about these people.
I mean, that seems to be as
Haas
logical
heart.
a reason as any. The Haas heart.
Sounds
there we go.
Sort of Germanic. I don't know.
Hanhart for Haas. Williams,
they could do like
then.
a Zin.
Oh,
like a Zin thin. I could see that working color-wise.
For Williams
for
or for
Haas?
Haas?
No, for Haas.
Yeah,
I think
that
Haas
works.
Zin could be a...
Zin. Well, interestingly, on the Williams site, they've yet to give Carlos Sainz his overcoat. Clearly, they're still trying to remove. Yeah, I wonder whether they accidentally posted his former team colours on this very quickly. And they have to emergency get rid of.
Does that person's shirt say "My Protein" on it? That's awful.
Oh yes, it does.
It does.
What is that?
For Williams are sponsored by Duracell, so I'm thinking it has to be a quartz watch. It has to be something battery powered. What is the most battery powered Williams-esque watch. Did Citizen not used to sponsor somebody?
ProMaster looks like it fit right under my protein.
I think it actually was. There was a Japanese
Casio,
watch brand.
I think.
Was it Casio? But it wasn't. It was like ProMaster or G-Shock or something. I can't quite remember. Somebody maybe in the chat, either on Spotify or on YouTube, can correct us. I'm
maybe
sure
the
there was.
Edifice line?
Yes, it was Edifice. Well done. You dragged that from somewhere. Was that for Williams?
I thought that was with Honda or something.
No, I think it was for Toro Rosso, the Red Bull B team, who's now the Red Bulls. And yeah, it was when they were aligned with, Honda's the Japanese engine manufacturer before Red Bull switched to their own.
I thought none of us would bring up Seiko because we know Seiko would never do anything like this anymore.
Well, they would just
how does this help us sell Presages? It doesn't.
Well, like the poor drivers, they'd be like, here's your watch to wear. It's the new watch. And they like, there's 15 watches in here. What do you mean it's the new watch for this week? the catalog's way too diverse.
So Japanese watch brand for Spawn. That's a fairly, although I do like the Duracell battery look for those watching on video of aBlogtoWatch Weekly Live. The Duracell look for the air intake, that's pretty clever. Somebody had a good day when they thought of that. Breaking News Beats is thinking of the Seiko Coutura. Not familiar with it. Seiko Coutura line, anybody?
I remember Seiko Coutura. That's like 20 years old now.
Yeah, Coutura
those
sounds
were the
very,
days.
Well,
those were the
very
days. 15 years old.
Well, I mean, what would be a good watch brand for Williams? They're old. They have a very prestigious old history, but have absolutely been pretty bottom of the barrel in recent years. But
they're obviously Patek,
definitely
the Cubitus. What we want is that Cubitus, just put Cubitus down the side.
You're right. Patek does a lot of quartz.
Patek quartz. That is an interesting fact. Patek does do a lot of quartz. So there we go.
My Patek, my protein.
My Patek, my protein. Just mounted under the
really
Duracell
own your protein. You just look after it for the next
generation. Good stuff. Right. So, I mean, Haas and Williams finishing bottom of the barrel.
Sounds about right.
Is it going to be a playoff for who's last between Williams and Haas this year?
Well, we haven't even touched on like Audi, formerly Sauber, have we?
I mean, they're not in this year, are they? They're next year. They're 2026.
Yeah, I mean, what that ghost of a team? I guess that's just. Didn't Rebellion used to sponsor them?
Rebellion did used to sponsor somebody.
Yeah, I think it was the Alfa Romeo team, which ended up becoming Kick Sauber, which will then morph into.
Kick Sauber is the name of the team.
Sauber have nobody in their uniforms.
Well, it's because they need their new little new outfits. Neither of them were on the team prior to it, so
it's a funny green color, which makes me think
Kick sounds like a fancy cannabis brand.
No.
Who's behind this?
There's only one brand that can sponsor this team. Look at that green Ripley. Come on, Ripley. What does this remind you of?
I was going to say I have a Philip Lane that could just camouflage into this.
Exactly. That's who needs to sponsor this team.
Not HYT? The liquid?
Not HYT. No, because it just be an oil slick everywhere, just break.
There you go, yeah.
So, no, Philip Line for the win for Kick Sauber.
That makes sense.
It does. I think we should I think we need a percentage for that deal. I think we take 10% for the deal for Philip Line to sponsor Kick Sauber.
You're so affordable, Rick.
Who do we need to reach out to at Philip Line to make this happen? Let's make this happen. Let's introduce these teams together and make it happen. So
you said it. The gears have already been put in motion, sir.
Yeah. So let it be written. So let it be done. Is that the phrase? It's, from whatever film? Look at that. A handsome man there with some handsome glasses on. There we have it. Right. Okay. That's our Formula One review. Now. What's been said in the chat? I put in F1 team. Yes, modern.
I was going to say
modern F1 team are terrible.
Gabriel Bortoletto, if they got sponsored by Philip Lane, that'd be the worst. He was going to go from Invicta, a fake Richard Mille, touching greatness because he is a McLaren driver. To getting a real Richard Mille, but then you get put on Sauber and then you get a Philip Lane. So you get a more expensive version of the Invicta, but it's still not the one you want.
I think we need to ask a more fundamental question on all this is Formula One a legitimate sport? Because all these guys really work for other teams. They're all not really planning this season. They're planning next season. And it's all really down to who can spend the money the wisest. Is Formula One an actual proper sport, or is it a pastime, or just
I
entertainment?
can say that following it in terms of the detail you do seems just as boring as any legitimate sport.
Ripley?
Yeah, I think the thing to remember is like we like to think about like, you know, the spirit of competition or whatever, but all of this is trivial. Every sport, no one really, it does not matter who wins any of these. This solely exists for our entertainment. And when you realize that all sports are just here for our entertainment, I don't think any of them necessarily qualify as proper sports anymore. You know, when is a 7-game series going to be blown out in 4? You know, there'd be hundreds of millions of dollars of loss of ad revenue based on that. So, you know, these things get perpetuated to make them interesting.
Are you hinting there might be something wrong in the world of baseball?
Do you mean suggesting? Meaningful competition, Rick? Is that what you're saying? Is it a meaningful competition? Because I don't know it is. That'd be great to follow.
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting. You just have a bunch of these like millionaire children racing these multi-million-dollar vehicles, and it's the pinnacle of motorsport, but everything's like a one-off. So it's not like the car is good. It was really good that weekend under those conditions. So, you know, it's even hard to gauge like who's doing well. It's who is doing well that weekend and who didn't get taken out by Lance Stroll in turn 1.
Yes, that's right. The Lance Stroll effect. Who was the Russian who had the nickname about crashing a couple of years ago? What was he called?
Oh, the one who was on Haas, but then they...
Oh, what did they call him?
Oh God,
he had a nickname
that was something we forget.
Yeah. What was he called? He got himself into trouble about various things, I seem to recall. F1 today is like the luxury goods from Borisic. Compare and contrast. Mazepin, that's what it was. Mazepin, that's what they called him. So, is the world of luxury watch chief executives, compare the world of luxury watch chief executives with the world of Formula One kids driving around really fast, being paid uber amounts. Are both sports in their own right? Are both just as irrelevant?
Won't this be more fun when it's just rich kids with their own spaceships and then they might actually die in space and then it's funnier?
Okay. Well, yeah. That's what. Yeah. Funny. Well, maybe not funny. Haha. Funny. Peculiar.
Like, I don't know. We like to see how. You know, we like to see tight competition. So F1 has these regulations where all the cars have to be very closely related to each other. But in watchmaking, that's like saying everyone has to use this gear train and this escapement. And that would make watches really, really boring, especially when they all have to look the same. Watches are cool because we get this diversity in them. And I think you should just no cost cap, no technical directives. You can make any car you want, go back to these days, and it's just about going as fast as, you have to pitch or have those rules per se, like we have laws of physics. But I think they should just remove all of this and just like who can make the craziest thing that goes around in this track that day.
Yeah, just but also to start off with 100-meter sprint to your car.
Well, and then the setting of the watch as well. Like, could you imagine one of those things that requires the pushers, like the Pateks with the stylus?
If ever there was a way to make the watch industry step into the 21st century and learn to use perpetual calendars with crowns rather than pushers, then making it part of the F1 process of getting off the ground would probably be the way to change that. IWC would win every race, and so everyone would eventually use IWC's process from Kurt Klaus in terms of setting the perpetual calendars. I can think of no better way of doing it than making it a fact of F1 racing. Right. Okay. So as well as that whole sponsorship thing for F1, and obviously we've solved the problem. So the highest score or the best team, actually it was joint between Ferrari and Red Bull, joint first place. So we're predicting a close run season between Ferrari and Red Bull is, if you were to compare watches, with McLaren seeming like they're going to be first and then dropping out at the last minute, would appear to be our prediction for this year. So we'll see how accurate that is and whether David has to give up watching Formula One for a fortnight, probably during their 2-week break. But the other thing that's happened this week in the world of watch brands and major IPs is actually in the world of James Bond. But before we get there, we'll have a look at this Omega Seamaster Diver 300-meter bronze, gold, and burgundy watch. There's a lot of colours in this. Do we like? Ariel, Ripley, thoughts, feelings, emotions on this watch?
Other than it being pretty at a glance, so there's a lot of issues with the detail, I don't know that this is particularly useful to talk about because I'm just going to get angry as to it's like too much for too little. And I don't think anyone needs to spend more than about $5,000 or $6,000 on this design. This is like some bastardized alloy of a metal that has some expensive stuff, some crappy stuff. I don't know why Omega can't just decide to go one direction or the other. They've been doing this like half in, half out with these alloy materials for a while now, and no one but them seems to get it. I fail to know, like, I know who these watches were designed for. Mm-hmm. I don't know who Omega is trying to sell them to these days. So I'm really confused.
I mean, what do we think a bronze gold alloy watch is going to do once it's been introduced to salt water?
Well, the whole point is it's still going to patina, but to do so more slowly. On one hand, you can see where they were coming from. Omega was like, people like bronze watches. They like this warm metal. They like that it, develops a patina and sort of reflects how they wear their watch or their environment. But they don't necessarily like the super extreme patina that makes it look like it was left on the bottom of the ocean, and then the green stuff that can discolor your wrist or shirt sleeves. So they tried to engineer a really nice, super premium bronze, which ends up just being a 10-karat gold in order to make it not oxidize in that really aggressive green manner. But what they've effectively done in that process is just make a low quality 10-karat gold. I'm sure you could make a 10-karat gold that didn't oxidize in the same manner. So it's really nice bronze, but it's also, because of that, really expensive for what is still technically a bronze watch. You can't call it gold, even though it's 10-karat gold, because it's 7% gold or whatever. It's not even half gold. But because of that gold content, it's fundamentally quite a lot more than a regular bronze watch. So you can, they say the roadway to hell is paved with good intentions, and that's sort of what they've gone with here. They tried to make a really premium bronze alloy that could be befitting of a luxury product and not do the gross stuff that bronze does that makes it feel cheap and weathered. But in so doing, they've just created this very different thing that's just so expensive and yet provides the worst of both worlds. It's not entirely, impervious to oxidation like gold, and it doesn't, offer the fun, affordable way to get your hands on a warm metal watch like bronze. So is it the best of both worlds? Sure, but it's also the worst of both, and it costs $13,900 on a strap.
And how on earth does it cost double that on a bracelet? Like, is this fundamentally the most disproportionately expensive bracelet on any watch ever? That you put the bracelet on the watch and it's more than double the price, and it's not even gold.
They sell both versions
makes no
of it.
Sense.
Just sell it only on a bracelet, include the strap. Why are you even doing both? Like, don't embarrass because when you see the person on the bracelet, they're gonna be like, oh, they didn't need to shell out for that. I mean, this case actually, in most instances, looks better on a strap because the case is prettier. It looks weirder on a bracelet.
I mean, I quite like that. I think it's a good looking watch. I think it does look nice.
Yeah,
I like
the colors
Burgundy.
are nice, but an indie brand could give this to you for about $700.
Yeah, true.
I was going to say, this reminds me of some glycine models that were floating around like 10 years ago. But yeah, the bracelet, $13,000-$14,000 for a bronze gold head-only dive watch. That's really steep. But when you're talking about it's almost $30K on a bracelet, that's like gold Submariner territory, and they're like, that's actually made out of 18 karat.
But I mean, genuinely, how did somebody at Omega sit down and decide that this was the value proposition of this watch? Because they know how much the bracelet cost them, and it doesn't cost them 13 grand to produce a bracelet. So what is the process with which a marketing or finance department sits down and says, you know what, we're going to charge for the whole price of the watch again if you want the bracelet on it? What kind of
really
madness
didn't
is
want to
this?
sell the bracelet. They just really didn't want to make that thing more than a handful of
Can
times.
you imagine if there's anything else you could do with the bracelet? But I don't think there is, because this color doesn't really match anything else. So if you had something else, what is it, the awkward 20, is this also the 21 millimeter strap or something like that? You have this awkward size and a watch with this exact same tone. Because you know that with the gold kind of tone, if you mismatch it, looks like a disaster. It's just the most ridiculous thing.
And you would think it for 13 grand they'd managed to get the size of the gap between the bracelet and the case slightly smaller than something you were able to drive through.
Of course not.
No, that's the whole point of this one. It's all about the gap. They want you to mind the gap.
Mind the gap.
I think what we're seeing, you know, they say like Rome wasn't built in a day. It also didn't fall in a day. This is like the slow falling of Omega. We can watch it as it happening and give it academic scrutiny, just one ridiculous decision after another, you know, because it's not going to be one failure. It's just a series of what were they thinking before it's unrecognizable.
What were they thinking?
Well, the interesting thing about this for me is where all of these updated no date mesh style models with the more vintage case profile is that if you look at the stainless steel regular Seamaster Diver 300 meters, like the James Bond ones, they've got ceramic bezels, date displays, and ceramic dials. These have aluminum dials and aluminum bezels and no date display. So in theory, all of this is lending itself towards being a less expensive watch. If they introduce these no date models priced, you know, well below the standard date displaying models as, oh, these are our entry level kind of vintage leaning ones, it'd make a lot more sense. But if you're buying like a $15,000 or $30,000 gold watch, do you really want the aluminum bezel on it in the quaint vintage spirit?
Get the Tudor Black Bay bronze or just the Black Bay Master Chronometer now. That is, that's the watch you actually want.
The Tudor you're wearing, that's the one you want. Is that the original? Is that the smiley face one?
No, that's the new one with the Master Chronometer
this is the new one.
movement.
All right, okay.
Yeah,
so
that's the weird thing. Tudor is now
a Burgundy watch by a Tudor.
Yeah, from a value proposition, again, none of us have ever thought a couple years ago. But when Tudor is eating Omega's lunch in terms of value proposition, things are just very odd. It's not. Yeah. It's just a strange thing, but that's what's happening time and time again.
Well, welcome to the chat, 94070 and Grinner Chick. Thank you for joining us in the chat. Liking the Omega, but agreeing with us that it's just far too much money. But it does lead me on to, you've mentioned there, is this the start of the demise of Omega? We're just watching the slow death. This week, Amazon took control. This is maybe a bit more in your wheelhouse in terms of film reviews and commentary, Ariel. This week, Amazon took control of all the IP from James Bond. Does this mean that the watch sponsor of James Bond is up for grabs and Rolex is looking for a home for its mega bucks? Do we think that Omega is going to lose out on the next James Bond watch? Should be going back to the good old days of Seiko or Pulsar. Bring back Pulsar and Bond. Or are we just going to see a proper Rolex on James's wrist?
I think Omega is going to try to hold on to it. There's no sponsors that excited about spending more on an unknown right now. It's pretty clear that whatever Amazon's going to do with James Bond, at least a lot of people are not going to like it. We've seen what's happened with Disney taking control of a lot of intellectual properties, and no one's particularly happy with the results. So I think that statistically speaking, if you liked James Bond in the past, you may not like it as much moving forward. Maybe some new audience will be into it, but that's highly unlikely. So I'd say that for legacy purposes, again, there's still all the legacy movies out there. Omega's still milking the moon landing. Okay. So I don't think there's anything that's going to change. They might make a split and they might say, you know, we're only legacy Bond, whoever knows what that is. But I don't see Omega being at all interested in departing from this relationship, especially since still to this day, so many people go into stores wanting that James Bond watch. That really does help sell a lot of Omegas.
But is it James Bond that sells a lot of Omegas, or is it the Nintendo 64 game that sells a lot of Omegas? People still harking back. It's the only watch they can remember when you reach a certain age
GoldenEye?
of wanting to buy GoldenEye, of wanting to buy a luxury watch. You don't remember it from the Bond movies. You remember it from the video game. I genuinely think that that's true. That when you get to like our kind of age, you want to buy one watch. You're not a watch collector. What do I see? Oh, I remember playing that as a teenager. That's the watch we're going to get. And yes, it's got a James Bond light, but actually it's from the Nintendo game that you remember it, not from all the money that Omega spends.
I mean, I would argue that James Bond has helped sell more watches than watches on the Formula One drivers.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So I think it's still valuable. Amazon is not traditionally in the licensing of its own intellectual property for gain. A traditional movie house is more like that. So I'd say that if Omega loses the relationship, it's not because they didn't try. It's because maybe Amazon doesn't even want to have things like that. I don't know. But I think they'll stick with it for a while. But again, we don't know if another movie's coming out or when. Obviously, stuff will happen. We don't know the direction they're going to go. But I think that Omega would be dumb to give it up unless Amazon destroys the franchise, but we won't know that for a decade from now.
What do we think the biggest watch brand is that you can buy on Amazon?
Well, authorized or unauthorized?
So authorized. So you can get Timex, you can get Casio on Amazon. I'm just scrolling
what
down
if
here.
Amazon becomes an authorized Omega dealer? They're like,
They tried to.
That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, doesn't Omega say you need a bricks and mortar, though? I guess Amazon can figure that out. They have enough land.
It's going to be an Apple Watch, isn't it? Or a Timex.
Hey, they have those Amazon Fresh stores. That's about as brick and mortar as you can get.
Oh, yeah, Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Right, so they're going to break James Bond, but before they do, what is your all-time favourite James Bond film and James Bond watch? Ariel, best James Bond film, best James Bond watch?
Oh, that's a lot. I haven't actually seen all of the older ones. I think that the more recent one, I forgot which movie it was from, but the one that actually did really well for Omega, the one that was designed, by Daniel Craig, and I wrote about it. That's probably one of my favorite ones, just because he kind of designed it. It was designed to be in the film and sold at the same time, because a lot of the best watches are not part of the films. Like, it's just like a promotional thing. So I think that almost till the very end, it took him to get it quite right. That's still my favorite one.
Ripley?
I don't know. Favorite James Bond film is hard because you appreciate him for different things. You love kind of the campy era for some. You love kind of the more gritty era of Daniel Craig. That's hard. I think some of the Daniel Craig ones did a really good job. For Bond watch, it's a two-way tie. Either we have to go to the original Rolex Submariner Big Crown 6538, the original James Bond watch. When Ian Fleming created James Bond, he said Bond wore a Rolex. It was probably an Explorer, not a Submariner, but go with the one that's closest to scripture on that one. But in the more modern era, I really loved the Spectre Omega Seamaster 300. So not the Seamaster Diver 300 meter with the helium escape valve, but the liquid metal bezel kind of vintage E one that I think it was like a bomb or something in the movie.
Best Bond movie?
Goldfinger.
Goldfinger. You just said that because it's the only one you could think of right now when I put you under pressure.
No, I think the Golden Gun was cool. That looked like the world's most elaborate cigarette lighter, but it was a pistol.
But that's Man with the Golden Gun, and Goldfinger's a different film.
Oh, yeah, you're right. God damn.
Yeah,
well,
see.
They're all blending into one. This is great. I get like 4 movies in one.
Everybody knows the best James Bond film is The Spy Who Loved Me, and the best James Bond watch is the Seiko, the one that prints out the little message that says, I'm trying to find a screenshot of it, the one that prints out the little message that says, call home, or whatever it is. There we go. 007 to report to HQ immediately. Seiko 0674 5009 quartz. There we go. That's. And I'm Scottish. It's probably heresy, but Roger Moore was the best Bond. Forget about Sean Connery nonsense. It's all folk trying to be too cool for school. Everyone knows Bond was Roger Moore. Anyway, right.
Does Scotland take issue with that, Rick? Are you about to be visited by someone?
I'll be visited in the night by someone for suggesting that anyone other than Sean Connery is the world's best Bond. Yeah, it's like part of your national story that Connery was the best Bond. He didn't even live in Scotland.
He was the good Bond.
Well, I've heard that
Rolex
Rolex
probably spent more time in Scotland than Sean Connery did.
I heard that Rolex tried to formalize a kind of a partnership with Connery back in the day, and he wrote them back a very unkind, direct letter explaining his stance on that, which I'm sure it's out there and you can look it up.
It is. You can go look at it. Greener Chic has just announced that is in fact Mark, and it's a perfect segue because we haven't had the jingle this week, and Mark, the composer of the jingle, is in the chat on aBlogtoWatch Weekly Live. So if you want to send your abuse for the jingle that I'm about to play, to remind us that we have a WhatsApp group if you want to contact the show, WhatsApp number, and you can also email podcasts at aBlogtoWatch.com. Let's get this jingle going. If this is the right one, let's see. You want to know, you want to talk. Let's hear your thoughts. I mean, I'm thinking this should be the new music for F1, or at least the Champions League.
It's winners' music for sure.
It's winners. It is winners. That is the truth. It is winners' music.
Yeah, you just won Rainbow Road Mario with this.
Rainbow Road Mario, that's it. Welcome to the chat, Mark, and for all the music, we'll maybe try and get round to playing the jazz remix version, which I have here next week. Let's call it a show at that. Thank you all very much for joining us. If you want some more, then there's always a little bit of preamble and a little bit of post-match available on the aBlogtoWatch Live YouTube channel. You can watch the full edited show on the main aBlogtoWatch YouTube channel, or tune in on Spotify. If you tune in on Spotify, you get to see the moving pictures as well. So if you're stuck in Apple Podcasts, but would really like to see our smiley faces and the images that we put on the screen to actually show you the watches, you can watch us on Spotify as well as listen. So other than that, while we go on with a little bit of extra time for the main show, it's goodbye from the three of us. Cheerio, thanks for listening. Goodbye,
everyone.
Bye, everyone.